Good afternoon from Ramallah in the occupied West Bank city. Today, Palestinians are heading toward the confrontation points again, but this time in victory, not in anger, not in rage. Today, they are marching toward that checkpoints to celebrate what the military in Gaza did, the ceasefire that was implemented at 2 o'clock in the morning. And until now, we managed to see that it's still going on. Hundreds and hundreds of Palestinians are marching toward the checkpoints, not only in the West Bank, not only in Ramallah, but also in several cities like Beit, Al-Khalil, and other places. And though things are going a little bit calm over here, we don't see a lot of clashes until now because the march just start reaching to the checkpoints. But in Hebron, several Palestinians were injured with Israeli that cracked down on demonstrations on the confrontation point. Palestine didn't sleep tonight. Like no one managed to sleep. Celebration was going on throughout all the night. Fireworks, cars, people, families went to the street in celebration to what they call a victory. They raised the dignity of Palestinians for the first time. We can see a lot of wings. The wings of Hamas, the wings of Fatah. Flag, sorry. And they're chanting for the military. And they're chanting for the people in Jerusalem and in Sheikh Jarrah. What they're saying is, why to be afraid? Why to be afraid? The stone became a Kalashnikov, and a Kalashnikov is a weapon, and that's the weapon, and that's the weapon that the Palestinians used throughout 11 days of aggression on Gaza. Today, the images that was coming from Jerusalem in the morning was magical. For the first time that we see Israeli soldiers standing still next to the wall while Palestinians were crossing their way toward the Al-Aqsa Mosque. In an image that we never saw before. We haven't seen in Al-Aqsa or in Jerusalem the soldiers standing still in front of the Allahu Akbar, that the Palestinians were chanting on their way to Al-Aqsa. But just a few minutes ago, we started to get news from Jerusalem that Israeli soldiers attacked the worshipper in Gaza. Today is Friday, and that means that it's a day for prayers, a very important day for Palestinians and Muslims to go to Al-Aqsa and pray. And after one day, or after a few hours of celebration, of stopping the ceasefire in Gaza, they attacked the worshipper again, raining them with tear gas bombs and rubber-coated steel bullets. The victory, there was a big insisting on calling this a victory because it's the first time that we see the Palestinians united in all over Palestine. No split, no Fatah, no Hamas. It was only the people, every Palestinian inside of the country, outside of the country, in the occupied West Bank and in the occupied land of Palestine of 48. And still it's a victory. But there was so many voices calling not to take this as a ceasefire. It's a ceasefire for the bigger story, the bombing on Gaza, in which we need to remember that we lost 232 souls and dreams and hopes. Those are the numbers of people that lost their life in the latest Israeli aggression on Gaza. 31 children lost their lives in this latest outbreak in Gaza. And people didn't stop crossing their word toward the checkpoint. But this time, to show victory. For the last 11 days, it was to show rage. Today, they come here to show victory. 50,000 Palestinians in Gaza, though there is a ceasefire. But now, more than 50,000 Palestinians are homeless over there. And as you see, the whole family is coming here to celebrate, seeing up all the flags from different Palestinian factors. The amount of joy that started 2 o'clock in the morning in every single Palestinian street didn't stop until now. People were chanting, hitting fireworks, celebrating in the streets of every single place in the West Bank. They didn't sleep tonight. No one slept. Before, Palestinians couldn't sleep because of the bombardment of Gaza. And yesterday, they didn't sleep because of the joy. And let me like quote some Palestinian voices, especially Muhammad al-Kurd and Sheikh Jarrah, that said, just because there's a ceasefire doesn't mean that the death and the destruction had ended. Doesn't mean that blockade is lifted. Doesn't mean that those lost their entire families will be respite. We must continue to our campaign to end the brutal siege on and colonialism. And let me quote also Diana Butto. This isn't a ceasefire. Never is. Israel will continue to kill Palestinians by land, sea, and air. The coming days, week, and month has done with every ceasefire. And that's true because every ceasefire comes beyond with counting the damage, counting the biggest image of the ceasefire doesn't mean that the occupation is lifted. The biggest ceasefire, the big blast of the ceasefire is ended, or the bombing did end. But the beyond the image of the occupation is still there. Gaza people are still living in a big jail. People in the West Bank are still living under aggression, still living based on the amount of freedom that is stolen from those soldiers on top of the hill. Like you can see the snipers on top of the hill, ready. And from being here for too long, we can see that the type of bullet, like the type of weapon that they're holding, is live ammunition. What we call in Palestine, like in a local language, the tutu, which is like worse than a live bullet, or almost like a live bullet. And they're chanting for wanting to live in peace. They're still demanding to live in peace. They're still demanding to be free because nothing has changed on the ground. The big bombardment of Gaza, yes, it did end, but the biggest image of occupation still going on. The big image of apartheid is still going on. And they're asking in Palestine not to stop the campaign of calling for freedom. And let me tell you, I've been covering the Palestinian Israeli story. I went to every single peace summit ever made and all the agreement between Palestinians and Israelis. But let me tell you one thing, I have never, ever, during the first invasion, like the first intifada, second intifada, the invasion, I have never seen the spirit of the people on the ground that gathered families from different ages. It also gathered generation from different ages. It was not only those that Israel claimed that those are suicidal that want to go and kill themselves on the checkpoint. And this is how they usually refer to the Palestinian protesters on the ground. But this time, we heard the voice of unity between Palestinians all over the West Bank, all over the occupied land in Israel, and also in Gaza and in all the Arab world. And we never seen that much of united or unity between those different generations on the ground. And one thing is that though the ceasefire is implemented, and yes, we did celebrate it yesterday, and everyone was happy about it, and the celebration didn't start in the West Bank, only when it started in Gaza. Like the smiles coming from Gaza and how they hit the roads and how they start chanting. This is when the Palestinian in the West Bank went out and hit the street. And remember, the aggression started at the first day of Eid al-Fitr, which is like the biggest feast in Muslims' religion. And today we saw different women like distributing sweets to say this is the first day of Al Eid that came late 10 days than its regular time.
كلنا مشروع شهادة. كلنا فدى الأقصى يهون. كلنا فدى القدس، فدى فلسطين، فدى الأعراض التي انتهكت، فدى الأرض التي اغتصبت، فدى هذه الأرض الطاهرة التي يدوسها الاحتلال بقدميه النجسة. باب أولى أن نعطاها برؤوسنا، بجباهنا، بجباهنا، أن نشهد لله عز وجل. سجودنا أولى من أقدامهم النجسة. تكبير، 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 وإلى الله المصير. تكبير وإلى الله المصير. إنما هي موتة واحدة. عنا إنما هي غيبيتنا. إما اليوم أو غدا فلنرتقي إلى الله وراض عنا مقبلين غير مسلمين.
Let's talk a little bit about this image. The red flag is the Fatah flag. The green flag is the Hamas flag. And then we have the red flag, which is the left wing flag. Gathering all in one place.
تجمعنا كلمة التوحيد المخلصة. لا إله إلا الله.
So what you're saying, not left wing, not right wing, meaning no Fatah, not Hamas. We are the children of Palestine. Calling for unity. And they're sending their greetings to Hamas, to Gaza and the people of Gaza. Ceasefire temporarily held, but the mass slaughter and return to the lower intensity violence of Israeli occupation, the ethnic cleansing and apartheid that deprive Palestinians of freedom, dignity, security, and pursuit of happiness. And this is why they're saying that this uprising should continue and should not stop. For the next generation, demanding to live in peace, in dignity, in freedom, they're calling So this lady is asking the soldiers on top of the hill to get out of her land. And what she's saying, Israeli soldier, you coward, a Palestinian dignity cannot be shaped. And they're getting closer to those soldiers taking ready position on top of the hill. This woman is leading Palestinians who are getting closer. No, Israel happening now. Yes, they did attack Al-Aqsa again. After worshipper went into praying, Israel attacked the worshipper in Al-Aqsa. So if you have any questions, shoot, ask me what you have on your mind. And for those who just joined us, we are reporting from Ramallah, and specific Beit checkpoint that had been for the last 10 days a confrontation point between Palestinians and Israelis in this illegal settlement. We have more news coming from Hebron saying that Israeli soldiers are really attacking the demonstrators on the checkpoint in Beit Lahem and in Al-Khalil. And we have several casualties until now, or injuries, with live ammunition over there. The Red Cross said that 20 injuries until now have been evacuated from Al-Aqsa, and they've been using live ammunition. And until now, we don't have enough numbers. But if you didn't see what was going on at Al-Aqsa, let me show you how the image was in the morning. This is how it was in the morning. Those are Israeli soldiers standing near to the wall, not interacting with the Palestinians on their way toward
Al-Aqsa. But then things started going really bad. And this is the image that started to happen after that. Israeli soldiers attacking worshippers, bombing them with tear gas. So we have 20 injuries in Jerusalem, and we have 10 injuries in Hebron, and clashes are heating up in Beit as well. And in here, Israeli soldiers until now were remaining self-control. But you can see them ready on top of the hill. But as we saw throughout the days before, this calm doesn't mean that really are like things are really calm. Things can escalate any minute, any second. You can never say, this is the thing about living in Palestine. You can never say it's calm. You can never say it's a peaceful demonstration with families and kids around. You can never say this because in one split of a second, things can twist. So let's take a moment looking at that. Let's take a moment looking at that. That's the image of dignity that came as a big uprise that we haven't seen in since 2015. We haven't seen that amount of people hitting the street, and we haven't seen families coming to the checkpoint. We see a whole family coming to the checkpoint. And for the first time ever, that we see the soldiers standing still up on the hill. It's the first time ever that we see the Israeli soldiers standing still in Al-Aqsa. Yes, it wasn't for too long, but the image itself, Palestinian chanting in their face, Allahu Akbar, while they go in, those Palestinians that were under attack non-stop in Al-Aqsa, being beaten, attacked by Israeli soldiers for no reason, just because of it. But the image that came today from Al-Aqsa, even for me as a Palestinian, was shocking. And what they say in here, you can always kill Palestinians with your aggression, referring to Israel, but you can never kill the soul and the spirit that those Palestinians have. Sheikh Jarrah's story didn't end. The bombardment on Gaza did end, but the Sheikh Jarrah story didn't end. The story of the 28 families in Sheikh Jarrah who are under the threat of being evacuated, displaced from their house in a new ethnic cleansing system that Israel is using toward those 28 families in the Sheikh Jarrah by trying to take their house over there. That story didn't end. And that story was started, the whole thing, is Sheikh Jarrah. We're going back to the ground zero, is Sheikh Jarrah. Gaza is busy now collecting themselves. There's a lot of dead people still under the rubble. They're looking for their loved ones. We saw hundreds of families that were dislocated in schools of the UN in Gaza, holding their gear back to go back home. Which home they don't know yet, because most of the houses over there were destroyed with Israeli rockets. So we saw again the image of refugees. It again and again happening in Gaza. You know what it means? 50,000 families don't have a home right now in Gaza. And a lot of families are still looking for their beloved ones under the rubble. A ceasefire, yes, but did Gaza collect herself? Not yet. Not yet. There's a lot of work to be done in Gaza. There's a lot of work to be done in Gaza, starting with looking for their beloved ones. And I always say, as I was saying, that true, there's a ceasefire. But we have seen a lot of ceasefire throughout the years. A ceasefire that means the big, huge bombing stops. But the aggression on the ground will not stop. Palestinians living in a big prison didn't stop. The non-stop aggression by settlers, by soldiers, by the Israeli government didn't stop. Maintaining the right of living in peace and in freedom, with the ability to travel when you want, to get education when you want, to live in peace where you want, didn't stop. And we see more people coming near that place. And I'm telling you guys, if you leave, it can be any second. So stay with us and let's witness together. Let's witness together how fast things escalate in here. Now we hear the sound bombs from the top. مرحبا، كيفك؟ ايش الرسالة اليوم اللي بنوجهها للعالم، للمجتمع الدولي؟ ايش الشعور تبع الفلسطيني اليوم؟ هاي جبل الأولى. هذا حق شرعي أكيد أوحد ربنا وعدنا إن شاء الله القدس هي عاصمتنا الوحيدة والأبدية لفلسطين. ونحكي للصهاينة إنهم أحسنهم يرحلوا من فلسطين مباشرة كل أنحاء العالم. كل العالم دعمهم إنهم يجوا يستوطنوا في بلادنا. هذا حق مقدس لفلسطين. وإحنا بنعرف نعيش وأستاذ كوننا فلسطينية وعايشين على هاي الأرض المقدسة. وإن شاء الله ربنا يكملها بالنصر الكامل وتحرير سكان العالم العربي من كل براثن الاحتلال والعمل. شكرا كثير لك. So what she was saying, that we're here to celebrate the victory in Gaza, and we're also here to tell the whole world that Palestine is our land and we have the right to live in it. And no one has the right to take it from the Palestinians. And it's a message of freedom, that we are calling for our freedom, for our liberation, to live in peace. Now more news is coming from Jerusalem that Israeli soldiers are arresting Palestinians, young men in Jerusalem. And things are escalating in the Masjid Al-Aqsa.